I have worked for very big projects, huge projects, connecting systems between companies, and I have always heard the term callback hell with Node.js. I will say that it is not fully true. It is not that complex to work with callbacks. I actually like them a lot. I don't require any libraries, so I don't have to go and learn new stuff. I concentrate on the product. Let me show you how I do callbacks in parallel and in sequence. I have already created a folder. I call it no callback hell. I am pointing to the folder from the terminal. So let's create a new file, call it app.js. And right away, I'm going to nodemon app.js. So I can spot all the errors over here, a little bit there. Since there are no libraries here, external libraries at least, we're just going to use the file system. So we're going to require the ves, and I'm going to use path, and then I will require path. Save it. No errors, that's okay. So let me show you how I do the first thing. I'm going to do callbacks in sequence. So callback sequence. That means that I have to wait for one element to finish, then the second task will take place, then the third task will take place. To do that, I'm going to create 3 files. These files are going to be faking connections to input-output devices, meaning that it could be that I am talking to a text file. It could be that I'm connecting to a database. It could also be that I'm talking to an external API. So to do this, let's just create 3 files. Let's call it one.data. I call it data because it could be file, database, or API. And then we do it 2.data, and the last file 3.data. Let's put some data in it. In the first file, I just have the number 1 for 1.data. This could be the text file. 2.data, that could be a connection to a database, and then we select something or insert or update. 3.data, number 3, and this could be talking to an API. So once we have all those elements in place, what we need to do is we need to check how we do this in sequence. So the first thing we're going to do, let's just read the first file. So we say file system, and we're going to read a file. Since I'm using path, I'm going to join it. So I'm going to say that I want to point to the direct name, and then I want to point to one.data. Let me just move this there. So once I have pointed to the first file, I'm going to read this as UTF-8, and then comes the callback. Every callback has an error as the first argument, and then I will get the data out. So that's how the callback looks like. Just so you don't miss anything, perfect. I will just save it. There are no errors, that's good. I will just put this at the bottom now. Right there. All right. If we have an error, when we talk to this file, we're just going to console.log that we have an error. So we can say error 1. And then we're going to return. Always do that. Or else we're just going to console.log whatever we have inside the file. In this case, data. Save it. We get number 1. So this is reading, let's say, from a text file. I'm going to copy this code and paste it, and now I'm going to point to the database. In this case, I call it 2.data. Same. If something goes wrong, I will get an error, or else I will get data. If the error happens, I will just error 2. Then I will log number 2. Save it. You can see the output, this is 1 and 2. So you could think that this is actually going in sequence, but this actually runs this code and it runs that code, but you never know which of these two will run first. So this is not really sequence. This could be parallel, but I will demonstrate that. So hopefully you have made it so far in this video. So now I'm going to talk to the API that I call 3.data. If something goes wrong, I will point to 3 and then show data. Now you can see the output 1, 3, 2. It doesn't say 1, 2, 3, it says 1, 2, 1, 3, 2. So this is not running in sequence. Actually, this is running in parallel, because all of them run at the exact same time, and the response in the callback could be this coming first or that coming first, and so on. So we'll do a couple of saves again. Remember 1, 3, 2 is displayed there. I will just reload. Now it says 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 2, 3, 1, 2. So you get a there. So you never know which of these callbacks will run first. And that's how Node.js works. So if we want to switch this to a sequence, meaning that 1 has to run before 2 and 2 has to run before 3, to do that, it's very simple. You know that this has to run after this callback. So we make some spaces here. Then you take the second task, you drag and drop it, and then you tap. So now we know that 1 is going to start running. When it is done in the callback, it will run the second task. So we have to zoom out a little bit so you can see where it ends. So now you know that this belongs to that. And I usually put a comment and I say end 1. And this here will be for 2. So we just say end 2. Obviously, you will have better naming convention for it. So now that I have to run the third task, I know that the third task depends on the second one. So once this callback is done showing the data, I give a space, take the third task, drag and drop it, and tap. And then I will just put a comment that says end 3. I save 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and it's always going to be 1, 2, 3. So this is how you do callbacks in sequence. I know that you may be thinking, because you have heard so many times the term callback hell, that well, what happens if you have 30 of these inner embedded callbacks? The truth is that you will never probably have 30. That is an exaggeration for many developers. I have worked in huge, extremely large projects, and the highest I have gone to is 7 callbacks. And yes, some of them have 10 lines, some of them have 5 lines, but that's about it. So maybe you will have to manage, let's say, 50 lines of code. It's not that complex. So now let me show you how we do this in parallel. And I really enjoy doing this in parallel because I have to create a little extra function that allows me to run this as expected. Since I don't want this part to run anymore, I will just put a return in there. You can see how the code got a little bit lighter. And then I can just do a test. I will console.log the letter X. Now we only see the letter X. Now I will show you how we do this callback in parallel. Callbacks actually. So how do we run several callbacks at the same time, several tasks, and then we get the final result ordered? Well, you don't want 1 to finish to get the data for 2, and then when 2 is finished, we can go to 3. That takes too long time. We want to run them individually, and once we have the final result, we want to compile it and show 1, 2, 3. So I would like to show 1, 2, 3, but in parallel. To do this, the first thing we're going to do is just call the file system again. We're going to read the file, and since I'm going to be doing the exact same thing, I will just copy all this line. So I will do that, and then I will just close the callback. I think this works. Save it. Yeah, no errors. So this is running the first callback, and obviously we always need to check if there's an error. So I will copy this line and put it there. This is what I love from callbacks. Each callback allows me to check for an individual error, and I have full control of it. So this will just console.log data. That is the first callback. Now I'm just going to copy, paste, and paste. I will call this 2, same as I did before, error 2, and then I will run 3, error 3. Save it. Now you can see these are running in parallel, 2, 1, 3. You never know what you will get out. That's parallelism. 1, 2, 3, and so on, right? 3, 1, 2. So how do I manage the final output to be 1, 2, 3 in order when this task run in parallel? And this is where many developers need a library to solve it. I don't. I dislike doing that. So this is how I manage it. I just create a variable, and you can put it at the bottom or at the top, it doesn't matter. And then I will say that I have tasks, 3 tasks, because I know I have 1, 2, and 3 tasks that I need to solve. And since I want the data to be ordered, I will just create an array. I will call it all data, and that will be my array. So I would like to put 1, 2, and 3 inside the array. And then I create a function. Let's call it show result. This is how I solve the parallelism. And whenever I want to show the result, just for you to see it, I will expect data, and then I will console.log data. Let me walk you through this one step at a time. So now I will just copy this function, and instead of console.logging, I will just call the function show result. Save it. Still, it's in parallel. There's no order. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, right? So this is how I do it. To solve it, I just say, well, every function is going to pass me an index. So the first function, the first task, is going to be, say, task 0, because I'm working with an array. So this is the first task. Imagine this is an array, you start at 0. The second task is in index 1, and the third task is in index 2. So now you have show result. In position 0, I want to put this data. Show result in position 1, I want to save the data, and so on. So in the tasks, in the show result, sorry, you will expect to get the index. And now once you get the index, this is what we're going to do. We're going to say that whenever this task calls the function, we have to reduce the task by 1. So we say the tasks minus minus. So now we know that we have 2 tasks left. And then I'm going to just say that all data, that's the array, all data, position of index, copy paste, is going to contain the data. And to finalize it, what I do, I say if tasks is 0, if there are no more tasks left, I will just console.log the all data, which is the array. Let me run it, look at the result, and then I'll walk you through this again. Save, 1, 2, 3. Obviously you can JSON stringify this if you want it, but then you get the order as it is now, 1, 2, 3, and it will never change. So this is what I'm doing. I run 3 tasks in parallel. I don't know which one will end first, but every time I end a task, I will call the function showResult passing the index of the task. So in this case, 0 data. When the function showResult gets called, I have 0 and the number 1 in data. Then I say that my tasks have reduced by 1 because I don't expect 3 tasks anymore. I already finished 1. Then inside the array of data, in position 0, I put the data that passed the first task and I check. Is the task 0? No, it's not 0. It was 3 to start with. I finished the first task, so this is 2. Therefore, I do not run this line. After a few milliseconds, let's say that this task finished. That's number 2 for the index. I had 2 tasks. Since I call this function again, now I have 1 task. I set the data in the array and then I check. Is the task 0? It's not, it's 1. Therefore, I do not run this code. Fair enough. A few milliseconds later, the second task is done. Passes the data to the function, and then the function saves the data in the array. And now, since the function reduced the task by 1, now I have no more tasks left. So the number is 0. Is task 0? Yes, it is. Therefore, I show the data. If you have, let's say, 5 tasks running in parallel, what you will do is just create the 2 extra tasks and then just change this number to 5. And this code will solve everything else that you may need to run in parallel. I hope you understand how I do it. Now I don't need to learn any external library. I don't need to include anything else in my project. I run in sequence or I run in parallel. This is what most people call callback hell. I like it very much because I have full control of the code. I have full control of each individual error if needed. And in this function, I can do anything I want with the result of each task. Thank you for watching this video.